What's going on, Mainsailians, Mainsailors, and the fine people of YouTube? Marshall Mainsails here today. And today we're going to be talking about today. That is Friday the 13th, and exactly why it is so unlucky. Why do people feel that Friday the 13th is the worst day that could possibly be in existence? There's actually a history to it, and it comes from the time of Jesus and the Knights Templar. So let's get into it and find out exactly what makes people so scared of Friday the 13th. Long considered a harbinger of bad luck, Friday the 13th has inspired a late 19th century secret society, an early 20th century novel, a horror film franchise, and not one, but two unwieldy terms. So just like walking under a ladder, crossing paths with a black cat, or breaking a mirror, many people hold fast to the belief that Friday the 13th brings bad luck. Though it's uncertain exactly when its particular tradition began, negative superstitions have swirled around the number 13 for centuries. While Western cultures have historically associated the number 12 with completeness, such as 12 days of Christmas, 12 months in zodiac signs, 12 labors of Hercules, 12 gods of Olympus, and 12 tribes of Israel, its successor 13 has a long history of a sign of bad luck. The ancient code of Hammurabi, for example, reportedly omitted a 13th law from its list of legal rules. Though this was probably a clerical error, superstitious people sometimes point to this as proof of 13's long-standing negative associations. So the Code of Hammurabi, as far as it comes to the Knights Templar, was one of the world's oldest legal documents, which may or may not have been superstitiously omitted a 13th rule from its list. Others claim that the ancient Sumerians, who believed the number 12 to be a perfect number, considered the one that followed it decidedly non-perfect. One of the most popular theories, however, links Friday the 13th with the fall of the fearsome group of legendary warriors, the Knights Templar. So the Knights Templar were founded in 1118 as a monastic military order devoted to the protection of pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land following the Christian capture of Jerusalem during the First Crusade. The Knights Templar quickly became one of the richest and most influential group of the Middle Ages, thanks to lavish donations from the crowned heads of Europe, eager to curry favor with the fierce knights. By the turn of the 14th century, the Templars had established a system of castles, churches, and banks throughout Western Europe, and it was the astonishing wealth that would lead to their downfall. And for the Templars, that end began in the early morning hours of Friday, October 13th, 1307. In the days and weeks that followed that fateful Friday, more than 600 Templars were arrested, including Grand Master Jaques de Molay and the order's treasurer. But while some of the highest-ranking members were caught up in Philip's net, so too were numbers of non-warriors, middle-aged men who managed the day-to-day banking and farming activities that kept the organization humming. The men were charged with a wide array of offenses including heresy, devil worship, and spitting on the cross, homosexuality, fraud, and financial corruption. The Templars were kept in isolation and fed meager rations that often amounted to just bread and water. Nearly all were brutally tortured. One common practice used by medieval inquisitors was the strapdo, in which the hands of the accused are tied behind their backs and then suspended in the air by a rope around their wrists, intended to dislocate their shoulders. As Dan Jones notes in his book, The Rise and Spectacular Fall of the Knights Templar, one of the accused's hands were tied so tightly that blood pooled in his fingertips, and he was kept in a pit of no wider than a single footstep. And in the spring of 1314, Grand Master Molay and several other Templars were burned at the stake in Paris, bringing an end to their remarkable era, and launching an even longer-lasting theory about the evil possibilities of Friday the 13th. So why exactly is Friday the 13th so unlucky? According to biblical tradition, 13 guests attended the Last Supper, held on Maundy Thursday, including Jesus and his 12 apostles, one of whom, Judas, betrayed him. The next day, of course, was Good Friday, the day of Jesus' crucifixion. The seating arrangement at the Last Supper is believed to have given rise to a long-standing Christian superstition that having 13 guests at a table was a bad omen, specifically that it was courting death. How about the 13 Club? In the late 19th century, a New Yorker named Captain William Fowler sought to remove the enduring stigma surrounding the number 13, and particularly the unwritten rule about not having 13 guests at a dinner table, by founding an exclusive society called the 13 Club. The group dined regularly on the 13th day of the month in the room 13 of the Knickerbocker Cottage, a popular watering hole Fowler owned from 1863 to 1883. Before sitting down for a 13-course dinner, members would pass beneath a ladder and banner reading, Morituri te salutamus, Latin for, those of us who are about to die salute you. 4 former United States presidents, Chester A. Arthur, Grover Cleveland, Benjamin Harrison, and Theodore Roosevelt, would join the 13 Club's ranks at one time or another. So how about Friday the 13th in pop culture? An important milestone in the history of the Friday the 13th legend in particular occurred in 1907 with the publication of the novel Friday the 13th, written by Thomas William Lawson. The book told the story of a New York City stockbroker who plays on superstitions about the date to create chaos on Wall Street and make a killing on the market. The horror movie Friday the 13th, released in 1980, introduced the world to a hockey mask-wearing killer named Jason, and is perhaps the best-known example of the famous superstition in pop culture history. The movie spawned multiple sequels, as well as comic books, novellas, video games, related merchandise, and countless terrifying Halloween costumes. Most recently, a number of traumatic events have occurred on Friday the 13th, including the German bombing of Buckingham Palace in September of 1940, the murder of Kitty Genovese in Queens, New York, March 1964, a cyclone that killed more than 300,000 people in Bangladesh in November of 1970, the disappearance of a Chilean Air Force plane in the Andes, October 1972, and the death of rapper Tupac Shakur in September of 1996, and the crash of the Costa Concordia cruise ship off the coast of Italy, which killed 30 people, January 2012. So although there is superstition behind it, there are some credible evidence that Friday the 13th is an unlucky day. Things seem to happen coincidentally on that day, as we just read. So while you're out today doing your business, working, playing, whatever you gotta do, just watch out because it is Friday the 13th and you never know what could happen. Until next time, Marshall Mainsails, keep it locked.